Okay, meeting called to order at 6:35, Tracy?
Yes.
Jean, would you read the land account? Sure, before colonization and settlement by people in the place we know as Outaouais, Odawa, and Ojibwa tribes, also known as the Council of the Three Fires. It also served as an important crossroads in the placement of other indigenous tribal names. Ho-Chunk, Illinois, Anoka, Kickapoo, Miami, Menominee, Peoria, and Sac and Fox nations. We acknowledge and honor the original people of this land, as well as the indigenous people that still call this area home, and support their continued movement of justice, self-determination, and sovereignty. In so doing, we honor indigenous protocol and remind ourselves and our community that land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense.
Thank you.
And
Is it? Did you do the roll call?
I deny it.
Okay.
Roll call, Amamu. Present. Dada.
Present.
Foltz.
Here.
Huggins, present. Kelleher. Here. Mills.
Here.
Day. Shire. Present. And Wallen. Here. All right.
Thank you. Is there citizen comment?
There is one person signed up for citizen comment in person, Aquila Bay.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's good to see you all.
You too.
This will be my first actual board meeting to communicate things with you. And to start off, of course, my name is Aquila, Aquila, last name Bay, B-E-Y. Aquila the Consultant is my consulting agency at 1603 Warrington Avenue, 6th floor. Our headquarters is Federation for Law and Government. It is Community and Social Services. It has been around since the 25th of August, 1999. Something great, obviously, if we're still right. And so a lot of the homeless and disadvantaged, sometimes they do come in contact with us and they do, have little spurts of disagreements and issues with the library. So since I am a resident here, as well as someone who has business here, I wanted to bring to your attention that you do have a DEI subcommittee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I was at that subcommittee and I did give the following information, and I'll give it again during this speech so that people can kind of take hold to understand that a lot of people who are homeless or disadvantaged, they do not participate. It's just something they're not going to do. And if they do find an outlet or someone to communicate with, they find it even hard to even do that. So it's been 3 months to come up with some rationale to go through the parts of talking to staff members, trying to get a little general information about how the procedure has been going for a long time. So first, I want to go ahead and read this standard, which is the DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, an organizational framework designed to promote fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly those of historically unrepresented or marginalized groups. And of course, the homeless in Evanston is not a large group, so we'll consider it in this context marginalized. It aims to foster a culture of belonging by addressing systematic barriers and ensuring diverse representation in workplace and institutions. And of course, we know that the library is that. And the core components, diversity, the WHO refers to the presence of differences within a group, including race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, disability, age, and of course, socioeconomic status. It ensures representation, varied background, and perspective. And of course, I'm talking more or less to those who may not necessarily have a 6th grade education or above, or are homeless. And the equity, the how, involves creating fair processes. I want you to remember that, fair processes and policies that ensure all individuals with equal access to opportunities, recognizing that unequal starting points require tailored resources. Inclusion, the field, focuses on creating a welcoming, supporting environment where all individuals feel valued, respected, and able to fully contribute. Now, the goals, to my understanding, when I was in the DEI, and I've been to two of them, the beginning when the last board member of that committee was elected, the gentleman, and I came to that board meeting on the 10th of February to bring this after long research on it. The improved culture encourages a sense of belonging, which can enhance employee retention and connection to work. Better decision-making, leveraging diverse perspectives to improve problem solving and innovation. And then, of course, fairness, remove systematic barriers and biases in hiring, promotion, and daily operation of facilities. So of course, the library here is a great facility. And when the churches are not housing the homeless, or when they are time for overnight sheltering, or when they are not feeding them throughout the day, some of them visit your libraries, both of them. A lot of them come here. And so a gentleman came to us and he said, hey, I want to file a grievance on this piece of paper. And he handed it to me, he says he's suspended for 6 months. I said, well, you can't have us appeal anything if you can't show us proof that it's even yours. Could have got it out of the garbage can. And he says, no, this is the way they do it for us. They don't want us there. They deliberately want to kick us out. So they give us this piece of paper that says we have 6 months and that's it. So there's no identifying markers on this piece of paper, no. So I said, okay. Another individual outside says, you know, he's telling the truth. The library doesn't want us in here. All the board members don't like us, whether it's our smell, whether it's our education, whatever it is, they don't want us here. And they choose to do this. So I got one of these pieces of paper too. And he pulled out his book bag. And definitely there was nothing there. There was a date. It said he had 6 months of suspension. Didn't really even tell really why. And then at the bottom for the youth, it says, well, if your mom and dad wants to come in, they can. So, okay, that's the second time. Third time finally happened. This is one of our mental health individuals who was with us at Federation for Law and Government. And he was twirling his football around. And security said, you can't do that. And you got 3 months, supposedly, right? I wasn't present. 3 months. He says he got allowed, so he jumped to 6 months. The individual gets his piece of paper for 6 months. He says he follows me outside, and I don't know what's going on with this, but yeah, like I said, board members. I'm like, well, you're talking about board members, mention a name. Everybody's on the internet, mention a name. He said, no, it's this guy, this guy. So he points the guy out. A couple of weeks later, I come in the library. I said, go to the library, sit down, and I'll come up there so I can finish the report. I get off the elevator. He yells out, that's my POA, that's my POA. He said, oh, I'm gonna get you in here now. And so I said, wait a minute. What do you mean? So, well, you know, this guy, he's not even supposed to be here. He's got a report. And I said, okay, sir, could you go get the report? I already had a copy from the gentleman prior. I said, could you go get the report? So we don't have those on file, and I have to go look something up. And of course, this gentleman being homeless and also mentally ill in a sense, is believing or feeling that people wouldn't believe him. But I'm walking off an elevator and I have a security guard telling me that not only is he supposed to be here, not only does he have 6 months, but because he has representation, I'm gonna make it a year. I said, okay. He doesn't know I have the 6 months. The gentleman goes into the security office, he comes back and it says 1 year. I said, sir, where's his name? Well, we don't do that. No. Well, sir, how do I know that the 6 month? And he said, 6 months. I said, yes, sir. I have the one from a month ago that says 6 months. You jumped to a year. But because there's no name, I can't go to the board. I can't go to DEI subcommittee. I can't go to your boss and say that you wrote this one for him 3 months ago, and you wrote this one today, the year. Now, we leave them alone, not to get anything agitated, so I come again and I speak to 3 other security personnel. Not only is that form the form you have been using for a long time, and it does make people feel comfortable when you show it to a parent who says, if my child came home and you saw this and said, Ma, I got wrote up, there's no name on it. There's no library card ID number on it. There's no verification from the staff member that they asked for this information. So one staff member from security says, well, they don't necessarily want to give us any information. So that's fine, you know, not necessarily, but there's identifying markers that should be on the sheet so that if this person came in your library right now and a board member came in afterward, how would all three of you all be able to resolve something if his name isn't on the original complaint? How is it that I can write an appeal for a homeless individual, a mentally ill individual, disadvantaged individual, and there's no name? And so I'm asking you all as a board, when we get the opportunity to do what I've done, get this piece of paper. Say, what paperwork do we use to punish or have to make behavioral changes in an individual so that you can put it before yourselves to see that not only is that make people feel, you know, despaired, disadvantaged, but it makes it feel as though there's no way to get any help. Because if my name is not on it, then no lawyer, no social worker, no case manager connections, no case manager at C4 can help. We can't fax with a piece of paper that says 6 months on it and that's it. We can't fax something that says this is part of the story and please check your cameras for this incident. And I'm pretty sure you're all gonna write me back and say that's not enough information. Yeah, and I want to go further into the testing mode of it. I just know that this is Evanston. This is a great place. We cannot allow something as a small piece of paper like that in 2025, that time. And in 2026, if it has not been changed since then, because the staff, the security staff, after prolonged communication with the people and security, prolonged communication with those on the third floor, those people have been removed. And we are grateful that they have been removed because of this incident. Because anytime I, who you don't know, steps off the elevator and one of my clients jumps up and says, that's my POA. And then you say, 6 months, we're gonna jump to a year, not knowing that my office is right here, not knowing who I am, that you would even say something. It made me very angry, made me very upset, and it made me feel as though everything they were saying was true. And I've shaken some of your hands, I've spoken to some of you all, and I don't believe you're that evil. I don't believe you're that mean. But if you went through what I went through over a 3-month period, listening to 2 homeless individuals show me document that has nothing, and I mean, police officers would write you a ticket. There's some sort of identifying markers, even if there's no ID on that person, and it's just a ticket that you give for jaywalking. Something is used for you as a supervisor, for you as a library board member, to be able to cross-reference and say, okay, we can look at that videotape at that time, it's been marked, this is what you did, here's the situation, let's file a grievance, let's do whatever we can. None of that can be done at this point because the piece of paper is literally that vague. And I'm asking that the board, and I was at the DEA meeting on the 10th, and the board was very clear to the DA subcommittee to try and say, hey, I would like you all to do your job and not allow us to push something on you to do. And I'm very appreciative of that. That subcommittee should take their own initiative to bring to the board these issues. But I wanted to make sure that I brought it to your attention because before DEI, that paper existed. And it seemed to have been existed for a long time because those 2 homeless with their documents that I have and the other homeless that have spoken about it, that brings a lot of attention. And we don't want that type of tension in the building. We don't want that kind of tension when they don't know you. But because they feel you're the bosses, you approve that piece of paper. Now, whether that's true or not, because I'm not on the boards, not only subcommittees, but I'm pretty sure as me, who's an executive, as executive chairman of the Board of Federation of Law and Government, and as chairman of the board over here in this building, they get through, we have our big board meeting, I have to sign off on everything before. Whether that's true here or not, I'm not gonna say any of that. I just want you all to take the opportunity to get that piece of paper, that write-up, and I want you to see how fair it is. And I want you to see if you'll make the changes necessary so that people can feel comfortable knowing that if they are written up, bad or good, right or wrong, that they can approach any of you and say, I want to file a grievance. They can approach any of you and file an appeal. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
No, sorry, I have a couple changes.
No discussion. Michelle?
Yes,
You have
discussion.
discussion?
Yes.
After the, yeah.
Oh,
Is there a
oh,
second? Yes,
Second.
so there was, okay, so there's a second. Is there any discussion on the item?
yes, please.
Okay.
Two minor items. The regular board packet for January says 2025 and it should say 2026. Excuse me, should say 2026. And then for the finance minutes, Shay was not present and the date was 2025 and it should also say 2026.
I also,
You have some corrections?
yeah, for the management committee minutes on January 26th, I was not present.
Everyone. Say 26. And Shay. Present. Okay. Is there a motion to amend the consent agenda with the 2025 Esther not present on the 21st and Shay not present on the 10th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, it's not, just to be clear, it wasn't the 10th, it's February 12th is the finance meeting.
Oh, 12, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that wasn't a further correction. Okay.
Let's get it right. Thank you. Okay.
Amamu,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay. Oh, sorry. Shire
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. Now the library director's report.
I have,
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to add under old business to add a point of addition of session planning discussion.
Succession planning. And what was the second item? Is that one item?
That's what I,
Succession planning and
discussion.
oh, discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, sorry. A motion to amend the agenda under old business. Item called succession planning discussion. Moved by Dada. A battle between Wallen and Shire, seconded.
Shire, I'm gonna give it to Shire. All right.
You win.
Motions. All right. Motion to amend old business. Succession planning discussion. Amamu,
No.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay. Sorry, I'll get on that. Shire,
Yes.
Wallen.
Yes.
Okay.
Now. Acting interim.
Thank you. The director's report is in the packet that was emailed to you all. I have copies if you want to see it. Just wanted to point out the one item in the updates. At the January regular board meeting, you all had asked us to clarify about the methodology used by the city for allocating the property tax levy funds as they are received from Cook County. So after further discussion with the city, it was confirmed that Cook County deposits the funds allocated for each individual levy directly into the corresponding account. The city does not determine or adjust the allocation of funds. The allocation is made directly by Cook County. So I wanted to clarify that for you all based on the question from January.
Excellent, thank you.
And I'm happy to answer questions about anything else in the director's report if we have it.
Are there any questions on the library director's report? Seeing none, let's move on to staff reports, the administrative services report.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
As far as the HR is concerned, maintenance and safety and facility manager, we are almost on the final round for the interview. Hopefully, across like we might see it next month or next the final round is like we can see results for that.
Great.
And then innovation in digital, we are still posting the new description, job description, and we are also working with the city HR because we had that new guidelines from HR as well. So we'll be working on those and hopefully we'll be posting that soon. Yeah. As far as the finance is concerned for FY 2025, we are still waiting for a levy. That's 13% that has we haven't received yet. It's around 1.1 million. That we are still waiting. As of yesterday, when I had talked with city, like they still waiting, and overall, like city is waiting for 7% of the revenue. They have received that. So they have overall it's like 92, but as far as the library concern is, it's around 13%. It's 1.1 million. And then for FY 2026, our revenues were the normal like the donations and the other, yeah, the rental and the donations, and then the expenditures were the normal, the ones that we were expecting in this for the month of January. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Are there questions about the administrative services report? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you. Next is the facilities report.
Yes, so as Samir mentioned, interviews for the facilities manager position are in progress. And then there were a couple items of repairs or maintenance that occurred since the last meeting. The city workers have completed the installation of the vents for the elevator room in the basement, so that work has been completed. There was a leak identified in the snow melt system. That's the system that melts the snow on the front steps and the ramp and also on ramps down to the garage. So leak in one of the pipes was identified. So now that we have this warmer weather, the city was able to remove that pipe and we're having it repaired. Now it should be done in a couple of days. There was another pipe leak in the garage that was repaired. So some regular maintenance items were repaired. Strategic projects, the city has begun planning for the upcoming roof replacement project. So that will be occurring in this spring. So we'll, I believe, we have more information about that in the finance committee report. And I've included the safety summary and including the overall chart of 2025 incidents as was requested in last month's meeting. So happy to answer any questions about that. And as always, have reported the data, the statistics from our partnership with Turning Point, the mobile living room, and the mobile crisis response team who spend time in the library, the number of individuals that they interacted with here at the library.
Are there any questions about the facilities report?
I do have a question. So with the elevator ventilation, do we feel like that is totally resolved now?
I believe so, and we also had the annual elevator inspection today. So just so you know, the timing of the elevator inspection was today and nothing major was identified. We'll get the final report from that, but yes, we believe that has been resolved.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you. Let's do the monthly development report.
Hello.
Hello.
So you have the January report in your packet, and the main item of note is the change in the reporting system this year that we are going to move from the gift date to the post date. And basically, the gift date is the date of the donation, the date of the check, and the post date is when we process it. So when this takes effect, there matters this year-end giving, December to January, we might get checks postmarked December 31st, 2025, but they go into our revenue in January 2026. And so this is just to align development reports with finance reports. And the only change is a reporting change. It doesn't impact donor receives as far as tax donation or an acknowledgement or a list in the annual report or things that effect. The best way to see this is with the year-end campaign, which is at the bottom of page 60 in your report. There's a little chart that shows the difference between when we look at the gift date versus when we look at the post date. But the overall revenue of that campaign remains the same regardless of whether it comes in December or September. Any questions on this report?
Are there questions? No? So let's move on to the exciting year-end development report.
Oh, the exciting report. This starts on page 63 of your packet, and there is a lot of data in this report, which I have gone through in a fair amount of detail with the finance committee. So what I'd like to focus on tonight are the outcomes related to the Strategic Development Advancement Plan, SDAP, which is at the end of that report. And it's helpful to remember that this is a 3-year plan. So this is the first year of those 3 years, and we did not expect that we would immediately make all of the goals of the 3 years, of course. But by reviewing the data points, it helps to give us a roadmap for moving forward based on where we need to put our time and attention. So let's start with where we were last year. When we started 2025, we had just finished in 2025, but we had just finished the 5th year of the Reimagine campaign, our year-end campaign that started in 2020, when COVID turned everything upside down and we stopped doing business as usual, or we weren't doing business as usual. And after 5 years, this messaging and outreach needed a bit of a refresh. So the STAP and the new case statement, which were written by Nicole Amlin, helped to provide some of these tools. And the STAP has helped us to identify gaps in our outreach, as well as the case statement, along with support from our wonderful Ellen in marketing, has given us new messaging this year. So some of the initiatives that were included last year were the summer peer-to-peer campaign, the special campaign for the collection, and a donor insert. So these are all the pieces that are showing up in that report. Going into year 2, we now have a roadmap, as I said, that's data-driven, and it definitely shows the need for new donor acquisition, reacquiring lapsed donors, and building major gifts, as well as using more tools in fundraising, such as events and sponsorships at these events. And for example, the spring campaign, which will be starting in March, will focus on a few of these items, and you'll be learning more about that at the March board meeting. Any questions?
Are there any questions on the year-end report? Seeing none, thank you so much. And now the annual report presentation. Sorry.
Heather is going to bring up a graphic of the annual report. It's a draft design that we have created so far. So for the bylaws, the first iteration of the annual report is to be brought to the board for their initial review starting February of the year. So by the first the February board meeting. So here is some of the graphical treatments that are being applied to this or last year's the 2025 annual report.
All of the photography in this report was done and inserted from our staff photo day that we held a few months back. And so these are real patrons interacting with each other and within the library. The purpose of this discussion is just to share the initial draft concept. This is concept only, and the intent is to gather feedback from the board. And, you know, you can email me any of your comments that you have, designed ideas, any ideas about the copy or the sort of the concept and the theme of the annual report. The theme that I went with is called Stories That Connect Us. It reflects the library's role, not only as a provider of resources, but as a civic connector in Evanston. Positions, in my opinion, positions EPL as a place where information, relationships, culture, and opportunity intersect. And I made sure it aligns closely with the 2025 to 2027 strategic plan, so that our strategic priorities are infused in the copy and the concepts and the programs that are highlighted throughout this program, or throughout this report. The emphasis this year was on volunteers. I decided to take the time to showcase some of the standout volunteers that the library has. And I interviewed them and got their story, and I asked staff who, you know, really makes a difference in our library. And so the first few spreads focus on these stories of these outstanding individuals and the work that they've done within the library. So I asked them to come in, we did some more stock photos, we did some, you know, I had them tell their story about the difference that not only are they hoping to make with the library, but the influence and the difference the library has made on them and their lives. So this is how I decided to open up the report this year. And I used sort of a narrative storytelling approach and really, you know, highly relied on some of the visual features and enhanced our brand look and the design throughout. The bottom spreads and the top spreads, you'll see some of the logo colors are infused on the bottom borders and the bands. You know, last year we used more of like more of a tan brand design in the corners, and this year I decided to make it a little more solid. And with the help of my graphic designer, we've laid this out. And so this is just for placement only. You'll see the watermarks on this design. These stories have been written, the photos have been taken, the numbers are correct, but there are still places where that's incomplete. And so I'm still working on the rest of the copy and getting some details from other staff members. But I would love for you to take a look at this and let me know if you've got opinions, if you've got ideas. A couple things that we do need still is that in the first spread, you'll see that we always put our mission on the inside cover, and then there's a letter from either the executive director or the board president. And so that was one thing that I would like your feedback on and what you'd like to see in that space. And then also, if you have any real, you know, strategic goals that you want to see infused in some of the copy. Similarly to last year, what I did was I separated the copy per department. So it kind of tells a story. It starts with early learning and literacy, and then it'll move on to innovation, you know, Teen Loft, then we go into adult programs and older adults and community engagement. So it does tell the story, and then it is followed by what's next for the library, and it includes some strategic future goals. And then we get into the donor list. None of those are current at this iteration. This is draft only, but that is, you can see where the placement of those items will be. So I just really wanted to highlight the pictures, the people, have real photos from real programs, and shift it up a little bit from the focus of the programs from last year. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment.
Sure.
I think it looks really beautiful. Like I can't figure out why. Maybe that's not my area of expertise, but it looks gorgeous. And I love starting with the volunteers, given how many volunteers make the library happen, and then moving through early literacy to older adults, I think is a really smart move. It looks great.
Thank you. We did want to, you know, I have a wonderful designer that helps with this, and we really just wanted to make it pop even more than last year, so.
Any other feedback?
Love the photos and
The
no,
photos are
that they're, you know, they're not posed, you know, stock purchase photos.
No stock.
They reflect our community, right?
Yeah.
They are our community.
Okay, I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. It's great.
Thank you. Okay, now board reports or oral communications. So I'm gonna start. So, I wanna take a few moments today, I'll make these available after. I wanna take a few moments today to honor, the memory and legacy of Yvonne Davis, whose leadership continues to shape this institution and this community in ways that still matter. In July of 1974, Yvonne Davis was elected president of the Board of Trustees of the Evanston Public Library. In doing so, she became the first woman president in the library's 101-year history. That moment was not symbolic alone, it was consequential. It represented a shift in who was seen as capable of stewarding one of Evanston's most important public institutions. Her service to this library began years earlier. She joined the board in 1969 and also served on the board of the North Suburban Library System, demonstrating that an understanding that libraries are not just buildings, but connected civic spaces, places where access, learning, and democracy intersect. Yvonne Davis also understood leadership as something deeply rooted in community. She was a charter member of the Evanston North Shore Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, grounding her work in a tradition of scholarship service and collective responsibility. Her leadership was never just positional, it was always relational. And for me, her story is also personal. Yvonne Davis was my husband's fourth grade teacher. That matters. It reminds us that leaders shape institutions, yes, but they also shape people, often in ways that ripple forward long after titles change and terms end. What I find most inspiring about Yvonne Davis is that she built a legacy in spaces that were not designed to preserve it. Legacy is especially fragile in institutions that speak the language of tradition while remaining deeply committed to long-standing norms of power. Norms that often interrupt, minimize, or move past the leadership of Black women. Building legacy in such spaces requires more than excellence. It requires endurance, clarity, and a refusal to disappear. It also requires the precision of truth. Recently, I've been struck by how easily the complexities of our work can be flattened by imprecise language, where the systemic, racialized realities that we navigate are often mischaracterized or reduced to simpler and louder terms. But if we cannot name a thing correctly, we cannot honor it fully. Yvonne Davis didn't just succeed in spite of difficulty. She navigated a racialized system with clarity of purpose that we are still learning from today. As her soror, I understand that my leadership here is not a coincidence, but a continuity. Honoring Yvonne Davis means not only remembering what she did, but recommitting ourselves to the responsibility of protecting the legacies that we claim to value by noticing them, by naming them, and by allowing them to guide how we lead today. May we do that work with the same courage and care that she demonstrated. Finance Committee?
Hi, thank you. And thank you for your comments. Let me move my notes over here. Um, Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up. Okay. First, in the Finance Committee this month, we talked about the status of the IGA and the lease with the city, which has remained stalled. This matters right now because the city is contracted with two firms to do roof work on this building. A reminder that the roof has been leaking into the new boiler, potentially causing damage to another capital investment. I've heard secondhand through city staff that their current thinking may be to pay for the roof work up front and then explore a bonding approach so that the city and the library can repay the city over time. We each will owe half of the roof work, for a total of $2 million and some change. So the library's portion is almost $1.1 million. So we haven't been asked to do any bonds at this point. And again, a reminder for trustees that we don't have access to the bonds directly. The city has to bond on our behalf. So I can't confirm any details right now, and I'm not presenting this as a settled plan, but it does reinforce why we need to reengage on the bigger questions with the city on who owns the building, who's responsible for what categories of capital work, and what the long-term framework is for ongoing maintenance and modernization. So this plan for the particular project seems fine to me and fine to the finance committee. When we raised our levy last year, we did so understanding, excuse me, that the roof project was coming and that the library could be expected to fund roughly 50%. So either way, Evanston residents are paying for the roof through the city levy or through the library levy, but the asset itself is still on the city's books. We do need to still pursue a durable agreement with the city that matches funding, ownership, and responsibility, especially as we think about modernization and making the library a destination. I was interested to see in the roundtable that the city's new program, investing in downtown library storefronts, offers grants to the vacant storefronts to help reinvest in the downtown area. Another important way to do this is to ensure that the library remains a vibrant community anchor. The second issue I wanted to mention is that, as Samir said in his report earlier, Cook County still owes us $1.1 million, which is roughly 13% of our back owed levy funds. I've written to Cook County, our Cook County commissioner twice now. The first time we heard back with a disbursement schedule that the county has not adhered to. And then I haven't heard back from my most recent inquiry. I'll continue to work with library staff to see what we can do to get those funds released. The third issue on development, as you heard from Jennifer, she has a number of exciting initiatives underway. I'm eager to support her continuing to grab the reins on the strategic development plan that Nicole worked with us on last year. She's doing a terrific job. We're really excited from the finance committee angle, and she's going to be reaching out to trustees for support as she reconnects with both longtime donors and cultivates new relationships, potentially with new donors. So thank you for anything you can do to support her in that effort also. That's the finance update.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Management committee update.
Okay, so management committee just met, a few hours, an hour or so ago. There are three things that I wanted to bring to the full board's attention. The first one was we talked about community event attendance, and the idea that there are events going on in the community that we want to make sure that there is a board presence at. So to ensure this, the things that we decided was that we have a calendar and making sure that we put those events on the calendar, those that we are personally invited to. Every trustee has the ability to put that on, so if you have an event that you feel is something that we like the board to be on, we go ahead and put that on the calendar. And also invite everyone to go. As a board, we can go ahead and decide if you're interested, you would say yes to that calendar invite. For those events that the library as a whole has been invited to or that occur in the library, Heather will put those things on the calendar in the same fashion, send it out to all of us as an invite. And you will go and say, if you're interested, go ahead and say yes, that you're interested. With that, what we will do is also think through what events we go to as a whole, especially those events that there is a cost to. So for those events that there is a cost, the joint committee between management and finance will sit through and really come through with a policy on how those, how we decide on what that looks like before now. What we are going to do is use the management meeting to look 2 months in advance and make decisions on who will attend those events. So the decision on who will attend those events will happen at management meeting, but everyone is welcome to go ahead and say, I'm interested in going to this event. And we'll look 2 months out that way. If there's anything like a special rate, if you sign up early, we can make sure that we are able to do those things. The other thing that we talked about in the meeting was in particular under that was the Chessman event. And the Chessman event is coming up in March. It is an event that one of the people who are going to be recognized is the city of Evanston chief. So we would like to go ahead and participate because of our current, since there is no current policy, we are going to do that on a reimbursement policy. But what I would like to do at this time is make a motion, around the financing of that. So one of the things that we talked about, before I make the motion, was that we didn't want anyone to feel like they couldn't attend an event, financially. So we wanted to just make sure that I wanted to make sure that we make a motion that there will be, funds available for reimbursement for this particular event, but moving forward, we would make sure that there's a policy, so it's not a reimbursement situation. So the motion that I'm making is to, approve a reimbursement funding for up to 3 trustees to attend the Chessman event.
Second.
Is that right?
Yeah, was that the motion was for funding for 3 trustees to attend, not 3.
Oh, I said up to 3, and I said reimbursement funding.
To be reimbursed. But the, well, I guess the agenda item was the management report. Okay. I think it's okay. We'll find out. It's not. Assuming that there's enough money to pay for it. I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
it's a reason.
Okay. Dada, Kelleher, Amando,
Yes.
Dada. That was another question, discussion, there's discussion,
Discussion. Like, oh, yes, it was moved and probably seconded.
yes.
Now it's discussion. Sorry. Is there discussion? Oh,
No,
turns out there's no discussion.
Let's make sure, we're making sure.
Okay.
Amando said aye, Dada,
Yes.
Pulse,
Aye.
Huggins, aye, Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay, I'm sorry, Cash, Shire.
Yeah.
Shire, I actually crossed her at home. Wallen.
Yes.
My brain is not functioning.
Thank you. The other 2 things that we talked about, during the meeting was a new member onboarding. Thinking about making sure that there is a clear onboarding and disembarkment process for our trustees. So Tracy will start the document on that, and we'll start asking for a collection of what we think needs to be in there. So the idea is for our trustees that come on, what do they need to know? Right, what are the things that we feel that any trustee that is coming on needs to know about the board and what we're currently doing? And then also the disembarkment process, we'll think about, what are the things we need to collect from board members as they come off. So, we will be getting email information around that process and working through that process. And the last thing is actually succession planning that we talked a little bit about at our meeting, and that's why I put it in under old business. So that we would have a space to actually have a discussion and think about what does it look like when we think about our succession planning, both for board members and leadership at the library. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the report? Seeing none. Facilities.
Yeah, I spoke about the building maintenance, Samir mentioned the interview process, the interviews are going forward, with the facilities manager. As we get through without any other major.
Without the roof, I was just about to knock on wood. There was the whole cave in, there's no snow, everything's fine. It's right. Does that neutral, if multiple people knock, does it neutralize the initial knock?
Let's not think about it.
Amplifies.
Amplifies, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, DEIB.
Yes, so I'd like to thank the management committee for joining us during our last meeting. That was very helpful, so thank you to Tracy, to Aripo and Jean for attending that meeting. I think it was really helpful to our discussion.
we did not have quorum, so we only had discussion, no actions were made.
That's it. I don't know why my brain isn't working. Any questions, comments? Okay, great. Communications.
Thanks. Yeah, since our last full board meeting met, the transcribed and captioned videos of the board meeting in January has been uploaded, thanks to Dominic. And onto our YouTube channel and has had, as of about 4 o'clock this afternoon, 39 views.
Wow, right.
So thanks again for everyone who helped out with that. Also, the board's FAQs page has been posted. Don't know how many views that has yet, but hopefully we can, get that number up to. In our communication subcommittee meeting on February 3rd, coming out of that, we just want to remind the board that as president, Tracy is on point to respond to or route all the emails that come in over the transom, any inquiries and that sort of thing. So just a reminder that we need to move things to Tracy. She can dispose of them or dispense of them is the right word properly. Also, in the digital library and communications agenda discussion we had with the communication subcommittee, we touched on how the board might help educate about what's going on at the policy level regarding the ebook pricing. You might have noticed there are a couple of House bills, Illinois House bills on that right now. In our next communication subcommittee meeting, I'd like to propose that we have that as an agenda item so we can maybe mobilize around some kind of policy thinking from the board about that topic. So that next meeting is March 3rd. Looking forward to that, and that's all I have.
That's a lot. Wow, excellent, thank you. All right, let's move on to new business. Approval of the FY 25 Illinois Public Library Annual Report application.
Yes, thank you. So as those of you who have been here for more than a year know, every year we are required to submit a report to the Illinois State Library. It's called the EPL. And so we have compiled all of the data for 2025 and included it in your packet. It requires the signature of the board president and the board secretary. So it requires you all to approve its submission on behalf of the library. Happy to answer any questions about the data that apply.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the Illinois Public Library Annual Report application? Is,
Second.
all right.
All right. Any discussion? Being none, on the question. Motion to approve Impler, Amano,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Walden.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Next item is acceptance and approval of the executive director's resignation and approval of a separation agreement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Great.
Is there any discussion on the item? Seeing none, call the question.
Okay, Amano,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Walden.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the interim slash executive director search RFP. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Is
I second.
there any discussion on the item? Seeing none, call the question.
Right. Approval of the RFP for the interim director, interim and executive director search. Amano,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Walden.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now on to old business, which we now have a new item, a succession planning discussion. Trustee Donna?
Yes, so our succession planning discussion, the reason I brought this is that I wanted us to have a space to have a clear and transparent conversation about roles and responsibilities, the positions that we have here on the board, and also really have an urgent discussion because we do have the nominating committee is to be brought together in April. We have a few positions coming on in June. So making sure that we have space for this discussion, and also discussion around like alignment around the needs of library leadership. As a group, so. Open it up on that.
Well. As we know, there are three trustees, I mean, every year, three trustees roll off, or theoretically could roll off. And that the process is that you reapply for your seat. And this year it is me, Katie, and Michelle, whose terms are up. I reapplied for my seat. But to be totally frank, I don't know that I have another 3 years in me. I stayed on as president, because the previous executive director asked me to. It is very, very difficult to find new leadership when the board itself does not appear to be stable. So, and that isn't specific to EPL, that's just in anything, like they want continuity so that they know what to expect. But I certainly wasn't planning to be president again. And if I were reappointed, maybe I can see, but there are times after some meetings that I wasn't sure I was gonna make it through this meeting. So I think we need to have really honest and transparent conversation around like how leadership works and who's going to do this. The one last thing I'll say, and then anyone else can jump in, is that I think much of the board, when I came on, there were no real systems for onboarding at all. And so that was literally my labor. And it concerns me that I will transition off and all of the years of effort will just, not because anyone doesn't care, but because, when you don't collect that information, and someone leaves, it dies. So it's really important to me that I collect all of everything that's in my brain, everything that I can remember to put down on paper, I do. And that I do this, that everyone else does the same thing, so that no new trustee starts feeling like they're at a deficit. But this idea of who's going to transition, who's gonna take the lead is really, really important. Not just because the library is important to our community, but also because we'll be engaging in a search. And so who is the leader is really, really important. So, and it will not be me. So that, I guess that's six in one hand, half dozen on the other. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Any other questions, comments? Who wants to be president? Wow.
Is it helpful maybe to talk about what the library, the community needs from the next president?
I think it's a great question. What do you think? Are we scared to say it because Bob's right there? Bob becomes part of the story now. It's hard. I mean, I've heard people say like, the people who are most like inclined to engage civically often don't because of the abuse you have to take, like,
Yeah,
it's not fun for someone to call you names and call you a liar or like, you know, ask you questions that you legally can't answer, like, none of that stuff feels good. Especially when, like, I live in this community, my kid goes to like, you know, it's like, you see people in the grocery store, like this is very, it's meaningful, but it does come at like a personal cost. And so you have to weigh like the, I don't know, I don't know what word that is, the capacity, maybe.
yeah, I always use bandwidth.
Yes,
Like-
the bandwidth for it. But somebody has to do it. And just imagine what it would be like to have a search where the candidates know that nobody on the board wanted to lead it.
Yeah, I think what I find increasingly difficult is what we know,
Yeah,
what everyone else can't know,
right.
and I'm not sure how much longer I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, that's part of, I did reapply. Shockingly enough, I did that after, around the end of the year. But I have no idea whether, yeah, if I'm appointed again, I still have the options, no?
Yeah.
Obviously. I feel like the work is here and the work needs to be done. And I hate walking away from something. I also feel a responsibility to stay if I'm allowed to stay. Because as I wrote in my application, I feel like this just this year, I was finally starting to feel like I knew what I was doing. And not to say someone else might come in on their first year and feel completely confident, so maybe that was just my experience. But I feel, I also feel bad leaving when it's in such a state.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want you to stay on. But
Yeah.
So I feel a bit of a responsibility to, as somebody who's only shouldered and has not had the spotlight. Yeah, so I guess I feel a duty, I feel a responsibility. I certainly know a heck of a lot more than I did 3 years ago. So that's where I'm at. I do not think I would be an excellent choice for president, however. I certainly do not have a gift with words, and I often prefer to just say things too bluntly. Not sure that I'm the best.
Me too, actually. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that.
I think what comes to mind for me is what are the things in place for us to be supported and support each other? And I think that that's where I struggle with.
Yeah.
I think that's where I struggle with. I think that all of us really pour ourselves into this work. It's, you know, we're a member of this community, we've used the facilities here. It's, I mean, when I was a stay-at-home mom, this was part of our day. Like, it was what we did
Yeah.
on a regular basis. You know, my kids grew up in this library. And being able to have this opportunity to be on the board, I don't take lightly. It's painful to not feel supported in that space. And I think that that's where I sit in decisions of where I, you know, what happens to me in this.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm hearing everybody and I feel that it's important for us to remember that and be proud of the work that has been done by this board. And that there a lot of amazing things have happened. And so I think that as we are making our decisions about what our next steps are going to be, you guys know I'm a career coach, so maybe you guys. The good old fashioned pros and cons, but we need to really look and acknowledge the good work that has been done and then make our decisions. I think that, it's not always going to be roses.
Yeah.
And so, and that's okay. And so we need to, do some reflection and figure out how we are going to move forward.
Thanks, Esther. It's a good reminder.
I hear that also as an invitation to a conversation that is not about who's the next president, therefore on whose shoulders does all the work fall,
Right.
but what are all the ways that this extraordinarily talented group of trustees and whoever the next 3 trustees may be, whether they're renewed or new, as I have been new to the board, but that this is a remarkable group of talented, experienced, capable, committed, all the C words, courageous, and that that it is not who is the next person in the line of fire, it is what are the ways that each and every one of us steps into more fully bringing this library to its potential, exceeding the incredible vision that's already been laid out, continuing our, the ways in which the library is an anchor of the community. It is so necessary, it is so needed. We've heard from our community members over and over again how the library is a home. It is a place to get resources and to help resource others. And that's why we all continue to show up. That's the work that the community asks of the library, that the library is designed to serve. And so we are each individually and collectively in an incredible position to be able to provide that service.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, are there any additional comments or thoughts?
I mean, I'm struggling with how to say this while I have a head full of cold medicine and I'm online. But I do want to make sure that before we go into decisions about who's staying on, who makes an application to stay on, and who is making a bid for officer positions this spring, which will happen pretty soon here, that we have an opportunity, and I don't know what the forum is for that, so I look for a recommendation there to do a reconciliation of why we're having a problem with being able to support fully 2 Black women in leadership roles, both from the board and then a resignation from our executive director recently, who were in situations, who have been in situations where they don't feel like they have full support of people around them. And I want to make sure we have an opportunity to sit with that and make sure that we don't go down a path of making that more calcified in our institution, so that we can make sure that we have representation from the full Evanston community, and that people can take on leadership roles and feel fully supported by, in this board, the rest of the board members, and, you know, anyone in the ED role also by this board. So I don't know where the forum is to have that conversation, but I do think we need to do kind of a, reconciliation discussion. And we had our retreat in the fall, but
But consider a mini.
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
thanks for that, Sheldon.
thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what Michelle said. I do think that sort of reconciliation, or maybe it sort of ties into what you said, Esther, this idea of doing some sort of pros and cons and looking at, what you look, what are the things what are the qualities, what are the things, attributes that we're looking for in a board president, and having some discussion, and maybe we do that in a mini retreat, or maybe we do that individually. If you've got some documents that we could use, just to spur conversation.
And I appreciate that we're having this conversation now because we do have to seat the nominating committee very soon.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for all of us to do this thinking now. So that we're not reaching that time and not having anything to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, I know that this is, and maybe this is just part of how some nonprofit or civic things work. But when we think about like, even, and she volunteered herself, so I mean, we should take it, but like, that's her profession. And we would be asking her to do what she does professionally. Same with Jean, like, we're asking a lot of labor of each other in a way that's almost like not reasonable. Like, it is not like, I was trying to calculate the number of hours that I spent on the last search. And it was, I had I had 2 meetings a week for months. And I'm like, this isn't even my job. This is my commitment to my community, and I'm spending more time doing this than I am with my family. Like that's not how it's supposed to work. And I think it's almost like designed to perpetuate some of this, like, and maybe I shouldn't say it, but like the unacknowledged labor of women, like library boards in particular, are often led by women. And so it's like, oh, that's not real work, but it's like, it is so much work. So I, and I also don't like the idea of looking like a quitter. Oh, like my parents would just be disgusted. That, but I also don't wanna like burn through it. Like I wanna still have joy and not feel like the library is a problem for me,
And
So,
sorry, one more thing, and just while we are on the subject of this subject, but we need to also include representation. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of representation, not just in terms of cultural representation, but also economic representation.
yeah.
In terms of employment. When I joined the board, I was the second person on the board to have a full-time job. Because historically, board members tended to be retired or, you know what I mean? And so I think it's really important to think about what kind of representation do we want, right? My kids utilize the library, right? I wrote my dissertation in this library. You know what I mean? And so we just need to consider all of that.
Yeah. How to attract other board members or people to be interested, because it may not be somebody who's sitting right here that's gonna be the next president. It may be somebody totally different, but how do they know that this is a place for them? Especially if it looks like, the last person was suffering. That's usually not it's like a Yelp score, right? They're like 0 stars, let's go today. Like, it doesn't make sense. So the nominating committee is seated in April. So that, I mean, that's part of our bylaws. So decisions have to be made between now and then about who will serve on the nominating committee and then who they will nominate. And, you know, then we vote in June and the three of us may be here, we may not. So, I just wanted to raise that concern. And so thank you, Rebo, for remembering, to get that onto the agenda, because it's not really something to do right now, but something for us to be aware of, because that's really only 2 meetings. It's 2 meetings away.
Oh, and before this gets printed, when I said the first, I meant in our cohort at the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
And not ever.
not historic.
Not ever.
Because my name's had a
Because
job.
that might wind up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want to be misunderstood.
I mean, to your point too, I just have to say it now, is that we used to have conversations about the fact that we have meetings at dinner time and there's no food. And like, and not to say that the library should provide food, but it's just a way of thinking about like, what if I were under-resourced and weren't able to, like, we're having a meeting at a time when most people eat, right? So, or many people eat, like, that's a consideration, like childcare. There are people that don't participate because they don't have access to childcare, and so like, we should just be thinking about this more broadly than just, you know, like, who wants to be president. It's a larger conversation about what
Who's
the,
at the table?
who's at the, yes, who's at the table? Who's at the table? Okay, let's move on to our last item. Executive session. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes 120/2A, I move that the Evanston Public Library Board convene into executive session to discuss an agenda item regarding personnel. This agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in the executive session and among enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are C1, C2, and are set forth as follows. 2C exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, or collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberation concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Is there a second?
Second. We might need to discuss. Okay, Amano,
Yes.
Dada. Yes. Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes, Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Shire
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yes.
All right. You.
And